John feeling a little bit under the weather this weekend, so he's not joining us, so we wish him the best. Hope he gets to feeling better very, very soon. We'll have him back. Not sure exactly when. I know he's got a lot of things going on at the homestead, so he's got to be dealing with that too.
Right.
We should be back soon. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. We'll tease you about some things that are coming up tomorrow. We'll tell you about it a little bit later on in the show. There's been breaking news overnight. We'll deal with all that as well. And this morning. And Formula One has done their third and final practice. We'll run that down here in a little bit because...
that's the bigger breaking news of all.
Yeah, it's probably about the biggest breaking news of the entire last, at least 24, maybe 48 hours. Running down what happened last weekend real quick. We start off with the Camping World Truck Series. Pocono is the location. Dominating win for Chandler Smith. 49 of the 60 laps that were run, he led them. Claimed his second win of the year. 7th win in the last 8 Pocono races for one Kyle Busch Motorsports. If they don't own it, they've certainly got a lease to buy it. Ryan Preece did make a late charge, but it fell just short. Ended up less than 3/10 back at the finish, trailing Chandler Smith, Ryan Preece, John Hunter, Nemechek, Corey Heim, Carson Hocevar, Austin Hill, Ty Majeski, Christian Eckes, Derek Kraus, and Tanner Gray. Zane Smith finished 13th. That was good enough to net him the series regular season title because that was the end of the Camping World Truck Series regular season. Their playoffs began last night. We'll talk about it in a bit. In seeding order, here were the drivers that made the Camping World Truck Series playoffs. It was Zane and then Chandler Smith, Ben Rhodes, John Hunter, Nemechek, Stuart Friesen, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, Carson Hocevar, Grant Enfinger, and 3-time champion Matt Crafton snuck in, leaving Derek Kraus on the outside, along with names such as Tyler Ankrum, Matt DiBenedetto, and Tanner Gray. Indycar then ran the first of their 2 weekend races up at Iowa Speedway, Newton, Iowa. Much like Chandler Smith at the Pocono race, dominating that, this IndyCar race was dominated by a two-time IndyCar champion, Joseph Newgarden. Of the 250 laps, he led 208.
Yeah, that was a walk-off.
And when it was all said and done, he was ahead by more than 6 seconds when the checkered flag was shown. Pato O'Ward was that guy who was more than 6 seconds back. Then Will Power, Renus VK, Scott Dixon, Alex Pillow, Romain Grosjean, Marcus Ericsson, Graham Rahal, and rookie Christian Lundgaard. We'll deal with the points after race number 2. That sends us back to Pocono for the second race of last Saturday, the second of 3 for the weekend. This time it was the Young Guns of Xfinity putting on the show. Noah Gragson, Ty Gibbs battling it out over the last 15 laps for the win. That entire time you could have, put a sheet over them, because they were within 3/10 of each other the entire last 15 laps, and that's saying something out of a 2.5-mile track.
Yep, that's a lot.
When the checkers were shown, it happened to be the 9 of Gragson out front, kept Gibbs from getting win number 5 on the year. Gibbs said afterward, quote, "That was probably the best I've ever driven there. I just didn't put it together. I made some mistakes. We'll come back next weekend." So Gragson, Gibbs, then you got Josh Berry, A.J. Allmendinger, Sheldon Creed, Sam Mayer, Justin Allgaier, Austin Hill, Daniel Hemrick, and Cole Custer. We talked about him last week. He was filling in on that car. Don't know if we haven't heard this weekend what's going on.
Chase Briscoe's in it.
It's Briscoe this time. Okay.
Yep, Briscoe.
Ty Gibbs still leads the series standings there. 4 wins now. Justin Allgaier and Noah Gragson each have 3. 2 wins for A.J. Allmendinger, Josh Berry, and Austin Hill. And also in the playoffs, Brandon Jones with his singular win. In on points right now, Sam Mayer, Riley Erbst, Daniel Hemrick, Ryan Sieg, Landon Castle. Castle losing ground quickly to Sheldon Creed is now only 47 points between them. I still think that without a surprise win, Castle probably is the guy that's in the playoffs. But this is a bad time to go into a slump.
Yeah, it's quite a bad time for sure, but we know Daytona's still looming.
I know.
And Castle is...
Welcome to the wild card, and Castle's good there. There's no doubt about it.
Very good in super speedways.
And we know how good Calic racing cars tend to be at restricted plate tracks.
But then again, at the same time, RCR cars are just as good.
That's true. We'll see. It's going to be fun.
Yep.
Last Saturday night, it was the second season finale for the SRX season. Seems like they just began, but then again, that was only 6 weeks ago. SRX Series running Sharon Speedway in Ohio, right on the Pennsylvania border, allowing for the second year in a row Chase Elliott to drive in the season finale. And just like last year when they did the season finale at Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Chase Elliott claims the win. got around Tony Stewart in the final laps to get it. Seems familiar.
Yep.
Smoke was second. Chase Elliott, Tony Stewart. When was the last time? Oh, that's right, Nashville. SRX season finale last year, wasn't it? Matt Kenseth with third. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Bobby Labonte, Greg Biffle, Ryan Blaney showing up and racing. Ryan Newman, Marco Andretti, Paul Tracy, Tony Kanaan, Dave Blaney. That's right. Dave Blaney was in this race. Oh, that's right. The Blaneys have what some might call a rather significant interest in Sharon Speedway.
A little bit.
Michael Waldrop rounding out the entire field. Oh, by the way, we found out that there was a running bet. Dave Blaney tends to come to Ryan Blaney's Halloween parties, but very rarely, if ever, dresses up for this.
Yeah.
He now has to wear a costume.
Yeah, because Ryan outran him.
Final standings, IndyCar veteran Marco Andretti claims the SRX Series season title. Slim 2 points over Ryan Newman, although there are some people saying maybe that should have been revisited. Got to remember, they give points in heats.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was just the race, it might have been Ryan Newman, but then again, who knows? You'd have to go back to the beginning of the year and eliminate all heat race points.
Yeah, you would. But it's, that's a product of what you get when you count points in heat races and qualifying.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't really have a problem with it.
I don't either. No.
I mean, it sets them apart from everybody else.
Yeah.
So I'm good with it.
Yep.
Bobby Labonte was third in your final standings, defending champion Tony Stewart, fourth. Then Greg Biffle, Paul Tracy made a late run up there and climbed up into the standings. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Tony Kanaan, Michael Waltrip, Matt Kenseth among the regulars made up the top 10. Everybody else was kind of part-time throughout the rest of the season. Sunday morning, we go over to France, Vive la France, where Formula One got things started on Sunday morning. It's kind of a lesson in not counting your chickens before they hatch, or in this case, your points before you finish. Ferrari's Charles Leclerc was leading the race on lap 18 and seems to be just kind of in cruise mode when I overshot the corner. I'm not exactly sure exactly what happened because it didn't seem like the car was all that upset. I mean, they run up on the curbing kind of all the time.
Yeah.
And really in France, it's a little bit less curbing, as we would call it, as much as it's just paint.
Yeah, because all the stripes that they put on the track in that limit area, it'll fool you. But yeah, there is minimal curbing there. I was kind of puzzled as to what.
Not really sure what got him loose, but it ended up spinning him out. He slams the wall, so it ends his day. He accrues 0 points. Inheriting the lead, shocking. Red Bull's Max Verstappen. He went on to the win, and in the process, he ties Sir Jackie Stewart on the all-time Formula One's wins list. We'll get to that later. Lewis Hamilton was in chase mode all that time, but he came up short. He finishes second. His teammate George Russell in third. Sergio Perez came home fourth, so there's your Red Bull, Mercedes, Red Bull finish. Then you got Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari. Due to engine penalties, he started 19th. Very nice run. Worked his way all the way up to 5th. Fernando Alonso 6th. Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon, Daniel Ricciardo, Lance Stroll making up the top 10. The Haas F1 dudes both crashed out, ending their 2-race double points streak.
Yep.
Max Verstappen now is out to a 233 to 170 point lead over Charles Leclerc in second. Sergio Perez is third, 163, 144 for Carlos Sainz. That puts him fourth. He's 1 point ahead of George Russell, 143, and then Lewis Hamilton with 127. So there's your top 6. And then you go from 6 to 7, 127 all the way down to 70 for Lando Norris, 56 for Esteban Ocon. You got Valtteri Bottas in there with 46. Fernando Alonso sits 10th with 37 points. Red Bull expanding out their Constructors' Cup lead. It's now up to a 396 to 314 edge over Ferrari. Ferrari can't figure it out. This is going to be Red Bulls for the second year in a row. Mercedes got 270. I take that back. Mercedes actually won the Constructors' Cup last year, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. I just realized that while I was saying it.
Speaking from a driver's title standpoint, unless there is a rash of mechanical problems or accidents.
And when was the last time we saw Red Bull deal with those?
It's been a while, but this is over.
Yeah, probably. So Ferrari's in second place, 314. Again, Red Bull 396. Mercedes has 270. They're pretty much all by themselves there. Alpine is third with 93, 89 for McLaren. Alfa Romeo 51. Haas F1 with 34. So we've got, let's see, the race for first, which it's not really much of a race. Third place pretty much all by themselves. Alpine and McLaren battling for the battle in fourth and fifth there. Alfa Romeo, unless Haas F1 smooth things out,
Yeah.
they're probably by themselves. Haas F1 and AlphaTauri kind of battling in there. Aston Martin keeps making noise, but I doubt seriously they're going to go anywhere, and there's Williams in the cellar with 3.
Right.
Cup Series gets rolling at Pocono next. Appearances can be deceiving. If you watched Denny Hamlin cross the finish line first, trailed by his Joe Gibbs Racing teammate Kyle Busch, and then you say, I don't know, shut the TV off and went to bed or change the channel, you missed it.
Yeah.
Post-race inspection, both drivers disqualified. Huh? Yeah, both drivers disqualified. This is something that has not happened in Cup Series action in 62 years. No, we do not count what happened in Talladega Nights. We'll get back to the story later. Those disqualifications handed the win officially to Chase Elliott. He was trailed by Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, Michael McDowell, Martin Truex Jr., Bubba Wallace, and then because 1 and 2 were disqualified, what had been 11th and 12th, Eric Jones and Austin Dillon suddenly get 9th and 10th. Elliott is now in control of the Cup Series playoff seeds. He's got 4 wins on the year, 2 wins for Ross Chastain, Joey Logano, William Byron, and Denny Hamlin. No, he had 2 wins coming in. Remember that.
Keyword.
Single-time winners puts these drivers in the playoffs. Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch. Yeah, he's still there. Alex Bowman, Daniel Suarez, Tyler Reddick, Austin Cindric, and Chase Briscoe. Ryan Blaney and Martin Truex Jr. are still in on points. And due to a wreck beyond his control, Kevin Harvick's bad finish now puts him at an almost untenable 83 points under the cutoff line, meaning they have to have a win in that 4 car for him to get into the playoffs. Otherwise, the only Stewart-Haas racing car that's in the playoffs is Chase Briscoe.
It's kind of a similar scenario like last year when Almirola was the only car in.
Yeah.
Similar scenario. But
strange, but very possible.
Somebody, before the end of August, somebody of substantial clout, let's say that, is going to get knocked out.
I think you're right.
Somebody's going to get knocked out.
You think we're going to get at least one more winner that hasn't won this year? At least one more? Again, we got Daytona coming up. We got Watkins Glen coming up. We got this weekend at the Indy Road Course.
If I'm looking at any one of those 3 names that are working, let's use that term.
Okay.
I'm looking at the 12.
I got you. Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney's ahead of Truex on points, though.
I know.
Okay.
But we know how real sneaky Truex can be at a road course.
That's true. You're right about that. Let's see what else we can get into. How about IndyCar's second race of the weekend at Iowa Speedway? Once it got rolling, it was really looking like it was going to be a repeat of Saturday. Joseph Newgarden cruising. He led 148 laps, but with 65 laps to go in the 300-lap event, he crashed. When he had a problem in the rear of the car, it ended up lifting the front tire off the pavement as he was going through turn 4. That's a bit of a problem.
A little bit.
Crashes him out. O'Ward, who had settled for runner-up the day before, was in the runner-up position. Then he inherits the lead and leaves the field. He wins by more than 4 seconds over Will Power. So it would have been this exact same top 3 had Newgarden's car not messed up. Scott McLaughlin was 4th, then Scott Dixon, Jimmy Johnson, Marcus Ericsson, Felix Rosenquist, rookie David Malukas, Romain Grosjean, Takuma Sato making up your top 10 this time. Marcus Ericsson's lead still there over Will Power, but now a whole lot slimmer. What had been at one point in time a 40-point-plus lead is now a 403 to 395 lead. That's right, 8 points. Then you got Joseph Newgarden, 369. Can you imagine what would have happened if he claimed 2 wins on the weekend?
Yep.
Scott Power then with 367. Pato O'Ward. Alex Palou has 359. Scott McLaughlin, Colton Herta, Felix Rosenquist, Alexander Rossi complete the top 10. They unlikely to have any real shot at this year's title. The rookie race is tight as well. Christian Lundgaard up 4 on the aforementioned David Malukas, 208 to 204. Callum Eilert, 150. 139 for Devlin DeFrancesco. Kyle Kirkwood, 126. Tatiana Calderon at 58. Remember, she still does not race oval tracks, and she missed one of the road courses due to sponsorship problems. And last but not least on the weekend, NHRA's Camping World Drag Racing Series running the Denso NHRA Sonoma Nationals out in California's wine country. Top Fuel, the lady that we talked about last week, holds the vast majority of the NHRA speed records. Brittany Force also claimed a win. Quicker off the light in the finals than foe Mike Salinas, and about the same edge at the other end. She ran a 3.709 ET, 335.48 miles per hour. It's her fourth win of 2022, her 15th of her career. First time that she has claimed a win at Sonoma. Congratulations.
Good for her.
Her dad, John Force, made it to the finals of Funny Car. Took on Bob Tasca III. Tasca, quicker off the light, helps him claim the win. It was a whole shot win. Grabbed a 3.911 ET at 325.61 miles per hour. Marks his first win of 2022, 10th of his career. We'll talk about whole shots in a second because we got more of them. Greg Anderson made it to the Pro Stock Car Finals against Erica Enders. Enders off the light, much quicker, rolls to that whole shot win. Anderson, quicker line to line. That's the difference. Anderson was quicker line to line, but because of the reaction time, getting off the line as fast as she did, Enders ends up getting the win because she crossed the finish line before Anderson did. Get it? 6.574 ET, 196.62 miles per hour. It's her 6th event win of this year and 39th win of her career. About to hit that milestone 40th win. In Pro Stock Motorcycles finals, had Joey Gladstone facing off against Eddie Krawick. Gladstone, the better reaction time, that gives him the whole shot win. 6.579 ET, 200.68 miles per hour. 1/1000th slower light to light than Krawick. This is Joey Gladstone's first national event win of his career.
How about that?
There you go. Brittany Force with the win inherits the Top Fuel points lead. Now 6 points up over Mike Salinas. Justin Ashley's 140 back. Steve Torrance is still there, but 178 behind. Josh Hart, 346 down. Robert Heitz got a 144-point lead in Funny Car over Matt Hagan. Ron Capps 210 down. 306 out is John Force. Bob Tasca the third, 400 back. Erica Enders got an 80-point lead in Pro Stock Car over Aaron Stanfield. Then you got Kyle Koretsky, 307 down. Greg Anderson, 386 down. Dallas Glenn, 415 down. Pro Stock Motorcycle is by far the closest of these four divisions when it comes to the chase for the points. Angel Sampé has a near 2-point lead over Joey Gladstone. Now remember, he just got his first national event win, so that shows you how consistent he has been this year. He's been knocking on the door, and he finally hit it.
Right.
Steve Johnson drops from first to third. He's 12 behind. 36 behind is Matt Smith. Eddie Krawick, 69 points out of first. And this weekend, the racing actually began last night.
In an interesting way.
Yes, it did. They were in Indianapolis. They returned to Lucas Oil Raceway Park. When we come back, we'll give you the recap of last night and set up this weekend and get into the news. And oh my gosh, is there a lot of it?
Quite a bit.
We just got underway right here. You're listening to CRN. Yeah, we are. Last night, Lucas Oil Raceway Park. Nice to see them back there. It's been a while since they've raced there.
It really was.
Camping World Truck Series had the honor of racing there. Matt, you got a quick recap for us?
Yeah, quick recap. IRP returned in a really big way. They picked up right where it left off, in my opinion.
I could agree with that.
It picked up right where it left off.
Yeah.
Running through the top 10, which he's got a lot of running from 10 to 1, everybody knows me. He's got a lot of criticism and anti-people against him this morning.
Yeah.
Because of the move he pulled with 2 to go, basically dumping and wrecking Taylor Gray for no reason.
Yeah, that'll tend to get people not really all that happy with you.
Yeah, it was a deliberate dump, if you ask me. And even when you got Vince Welch and Phil Parsons going, what are you doing? Why did you even do that? He had a clear path to running clean, but John Hunter Nemechek was 10th, Matt Crafton 9th, Ty Majeski, who led late, fell back to 8th, making his Truck Series debut in the second Halmar Friesen truck last night, Lane Riggs.
It's a nice run.
The name Riggs ring a bell? Scott Riggs' son. Tyler Ankrum 6th, Corey Heim 5th. You had Stuart Friesen 4th. Zane Smith with a massive charge from 23rd up to 3rd.
Nice run. Needed it for the, first playoff.
Yeah, no doubt.
That first run of the playoffs.
Ben Rhodes in 2nd and getting his first win of the year at a really good time, if you ask me. Green and Finger.
Yeah. Mobile, Alabama's own.
They're waking up at the right time, but the way the points shake out currently, as they stand, leading by 14 is Zane Smith over Ben Rhodes. Grant Enfinger shoots up to 3rd, locked into the next round already automatically. Stuart Friesen 4th, John Hunter Nemechek 5th, Chandler Smith 6th, Ty Majeski 7th, Carson Lucivar 8th, Matt Crafton 9th, and Christian Eckes in 10th. Crafton and Eckes are bringing up the rear.
So they're already on the hot seat.
Yeah, they're already on the hot seat at a dead tie.
Ooh. Keep an eye on it, obviously. As far as the rest of the day, hey, we already have a race going. It's Formula E. They're running the first race of the London E-Prix doubleheader weekend. 22 turns and 1.33 miles. Good grief. That's a city course if I ever heard one. It's running in and around London's Excel Center. It's airing on the CBS Sports Network right now. Again, it started right as we did. We'll keep an eye on it for you because finding the CBS Sports Network for a lot of people, myself included, is not the easiest of tasks because it's not included on my package.
Okay, here we go.
I'll let you look it up while I continue on with the schedule. We turn our attention to the Indycar NASCAR doubleheader day. Indycar leads off the Gallagher Grand Prix. It's on the Indy Road Course, 14 turns, 2.439 miles long, airs on NBC and IRN Radio and our flagship radio station right here. Starts noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central Time. Then you got the Xfinity Series taken to the same track and the same course, running the Pennzoil 150 at the Brickyard. NBC and IRN Radio coverage starts 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Central Time. In other words, probably basically from one almost right to the other. Sunday morning brings us to Formula One. They're going to run the Aramco Hungarian Grand Prix on a 14-turn, 2.72-mile-long Hungaroring course. ESPN got the coverage 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, which, as it turns out, is the exact same start time as race number 2 of Formula E's London doubleheader weekend. Same circuit that we just talked about that they're running on right now. 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time, CBS Sports Network, again, assuming you actually get that channel.
Race 1 starts in 30 minutes. Looking at the timer right here.
Oh, okay.
Kicks off in 30 minutes at the top of the hour.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on it for you then. Cup Series takes center stage. Verizon 200 at the Brickyard. Same road courses today, obviously, in the pair of races that Xfinity and IndyCar are running. NBC and IRN Radio have the coverage 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. And, oh yeah, the NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series is in action as well, running the final race of their Western Swing. It's the Flavor Pack Northwest Nationals at Pacific Raceways near Seattle, Washington. Airs live on Fox, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. And considering that the Superstar Racing Experience, or SRX Series, is done, all the series that we cover on a regular basis, they're in action this weekend. In other words, we'll have a busy recap coming up next week.
Full house.
No doubt about it. All right, so Formula E getting ready to go into action. Let's talk Formula One. First things first, FP3 for tomorrow's race in Hungary. Let's just say, had a couple of surprises.
Couple, you say? Let's just go through the top 10
Okay.
from 10 to 1, shall we?
And note the names that he mentions just as much as the names that he doesn't.
Right. 10th, we have the Haas of Kevin Magnussen.
Okay, which that's got an improvement. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
9th, we have the gentleman that made a little bit of noise this week with an announcement, Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, we'll get to that almost right after we talk about this rundown.
Lando Norris in 8th. Carlos Sainz, 7th. Fernando Alonso, 6th.
Okay.
Here's your top 5.
Mm-hmm.
Brace yourself. George Russell.
Okay.
Max Verstappen.
Fourth. That's a bit of a surprise.
3rd, Alexander Albon in the Williams. 2nd, Charles Leclerc, Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
So naturally, your first reaction is, okay, so it's a Red Bull or another Ferrari.
Or maybe Lewis Hamilton.
Or maybe Lewis Hamilton.
Sure.
No. 0.6 of a second quicker was none other than Nicholas Latifi in the Williams.
Yeah, the guy who has not scored one single championship point since he's been in Formula One for, 3 years now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's leading.
By 0.6.
It is wet over there, and wet weather and wet conditions can kind of be something of an equalizer. But by 0.6 in a Williams with a guy who's never scored a championship point.
Yeah, and it's still wet.
It's going to be real interesting to see how this goes.
We don't know who shows what or who showed what fully.
And that may be the other side of it. They may have been holding back.
But if there's a Williams front row lockout,
are they doing qualifying before we get off the air?
Let me check on that, I think, but I'm not sure.
Okay, while you're checking on that, he mentioned Sebastian Vettel in the news, 4-time champion Sebastian Vettel, quite a way removed from those titles. We should admit to that. It's been the better part of a decade, but at the same time, he said that he didn't want to quit racing in the series earlier this week. His contract is up at the end of the season with Aston Martin. He's been very consistent saying he would wait to get into any contract negotiations. But we've got the summer break looming. In other words, after this weekend, they take effectively an entire month off. That time appears to be now. He said he would like to remain at Aston Martin. That was at the beginning of the year, or I should say at the beginning of the week.
Yep.
There are rumors, though, that had him going to McLaren to take over Daniel Ricciardo's seat. Well, now we can nix those rumors, and we can nix the idea that he'll be returning to Aston Martin because Sebastian Vettel said, I'm retiring. At the end of this year, on Thursday, he said this will be his final year. Vettel launched an Instagram account on the very same day and decided that his very first post would be a video that announced that he is almost done with Formula One. Again, his contract with Aston up at the end of the year and leave behind a legacy that includes the 4 titles that I referred to, which ties in with Alain Prost for that many. And heading into this weekend, he's got 53 career wins. Now, 38 of them were with Red Bull, where all 4 of his titles were won. He did have 14 wins with Ferrari. He did have a win with Toro Rosso before called up to Red Bull. This year has not been kind to Vettel. He's 14th in driver standings, and he's accrued kind of a lackluster 15 points so far this year.
To answer the question, qualifying rules at the top of the hour.
Okay. So we got that in Formula E all going right at about 9 o'clock our time.
Mm-hmm.
So this obviously brings up a very large question that looms in the face of Aston Martin team owner Lawrence Stroll, who might be aligned to take the seat that Vettel's about to vacate. Well, Stroll, according to most, is going to be looking to make a very big, well-known name splash. Someone who maybe could mentor young Lance Stroll, kind of like he was hoping Sebastian Vettel would. Among the 2 most likely names seem Fernando Alonso, who could be willing to make a switch from Alpine for that challenge. But then again, you do have a veteran driver that's already in your stable. He is Aston Martin's reserve driver, Nico Hülkenberg.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, Lawrence Stroll, he's that kind of guy. He could decide to go outside of both of those names and try out somebody else. Time will tell. I imagine it won't take him too long to go find the person that he's looking for. I don't think this is going to go If it goes into the offseason, it will not go much into the offseason.
Right.
Lawrence Stroll is going to want to lock this down as soon as he can.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Over to Ferrari. Oh, by the way, yes, we're kind of burying a lead for those of you that are unfamiliar with things. The biggest story of the week is likely what happened in the Cup Series. Remember what we talked about when it came to Pocono in the Cup Series?
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to bury that lead. Just because we did not get to any Formula One news last week, we decided to lead off with it this week. So Ferrari, Carlos Sainz specifically, he has exceeded his allotted number of control electronics for his engine. So therefore, wherever he ends up qualifying, he will take a 10 grid spot penalty. Sainz has qualified well this season, but the best he'll be able to start tomorrow will be 11th. Up against the wall of that penalty also is Lewis Hamilton. He's on the third of 3 allowed turbochargers and the third of 3 MGUH systems. That's part of the hybrid system for the season. If he goes one more, that's a penalty for him, and he'll suffer that same 10 grid spot penalty. And then there's this. The hot and cold nature of Honda in Formula One seems to be warming up a bit again. As of now, they are officially out as an engine supplier, but yes, they still have their logo on the Red Bull and AlphaTauri rides because they're still on with them as consultants for those engines. While Honda officials seem to be happy with the decision over the short term, there are many inside of Honda that believe the officials are watching the progress of the new engine regulations. The reason for the keen interest might be because they are thinking about coming back again. The reason Honda gave for leaving this time was they want to try to obtain carbon neutrality throughout the company, which means not only your road-going cars, but all of your lawn equipment and off-road and, we're thinking motorcycles, side-by-sides, ATVs, lawnmowers, cars, trucks, and racing. All of that stuff that has the Honda brand. They're hoping for some form of carbon neutrality. And they're using the money that they had been using in Formula One, hundreds of millions of dollars in total, working towards that goal. But they have no date set to when they think that they might be able to obtain carbon neutrality, which I kind of think is something of a myth myself, but hey, whatever. On that note, Formula One officials are claiming that they want to be carbon neutral as a series by 2030. This includes plans to introduce, now you've heard of synthetic oil. Have you heard of synthetic fuel? That's what Formula One wants to bring in with the 2026 season and the new engine regulations that come on board. So with that, when asked about their interest when racing at Red Bull Ring in Austria a couple of weeks ago, Honda officials said this, quote, Formula One is the top motorsports category, so we're always watching what's happening in the F1 world. Of course, we just finished and concluded our activities and nothing discussed within the Honda company about the 2026 season, so no plan. It's not a closed door. That's kind of like leaving us all on a cliffhanger. It's not a closed door, so we may still walk through the open door.
Yeah.
Okay. This would be about, what, the 4th or 5th time Honda, I think, has kind of come in and gone out and come in and gone out of?
Seems like the 83rd.
Yeah, something like that. Well, while Honda tries to figure out what they're going to do, the VW Group is in the continuing saga of VW Group's pending entry into Formula One. We're still waiting about how Audi's going to make their way in. We don't know it specifically. But Porsche, long rumored to be linked to Red Bull, is indeed using the Swiss-based team to rejoin the series, but not just as an engine supplier as we had initially thought. Turns out not only will, unless Honda does a massive double take and somehow undercuts Porsche, which I don't think this is going to happen, Porsche will not only have their brand stamped on the engines running Red Bull and AlphaTauri cars, they're going to be 50% owners of said car. The purchase is set to be completed in time to begin the 2026 season with all the new regulations in place. Neither Red Bull nor Porsche have said anything officially, but here's how we know this is in the works. Paperwork submitted to antitrust authorities in Monaco states Porsche's intent to buy 50% of Red Bull technology. They say that an official announcement is set for August the 4th and includes a 10-year commitment between the two sides. Porsche officials are quiet. Red Bull officials are only stating publicly that the two companies, quote, remain engaged in constructive discussions, unquote. Well, if they're buying 50% of your company, that means a massive influx of money. Not that they needed it. So, yeah, I would say you could call that constructive.
Quite a bit.
50%. 50%.
I would like to see what that 50% bill equates out to.
We might find that out. We might just be able to find that out. Again, all the paperwork that you have to go through, and they'd have to do it here in America, but in Europe, it's even stricter. Mm-hmm. I bet you we'll find out at some point in time.
Probably so.
Oh, there's that porpoising situation. Those issues that have plagued some F1 teams basically all year. Expect the FIA to address it in the offseason with some potential changes to the technical regulations. Among the things being discussed already, raising the floor edges 25 millimeters, which when you're doing, let's face it, 180, 190, 200 miles per hour, 25 millimeters, that can be a lot.
You're talking about that right there. I was watching some of that race last week. There was a stretch of Circuit Paul Ricard going from 205 to 50.
Ouch. Anyway, what this would do is raise the underfloor diffuser, or basically introducing, that's one possibility. The other possibility is maybe introducing what they call a harsher lateral floor deflection test in order to avoid this problem. Will any of it work? God only knows, and would need to be approved by the World Motorsport Council, but the FIA officials state that this porpoising thing is a safety issue and needs to be addressed, and since it's considered that, they didn't have to take or talk to any teams for approval on this. It hasn't made some teams all that happy. They say that they should have a say in the matter because not all teams are suffering from this issue. Mercedes is the most obvious one, but Ferrari hasn't really talked about it, nor has either of the Ferrari customer teams, which are Alfa Romeo and Haas F1. We really haven't heard a whole lot out of Red Bull or AlphaTauri. It really seems to be Mercedes, and again, because they don't only supply the engines to the customer teams, we haven't seen it out of the customer teams that much. So Williams isn't talking about it. McLaren isn't really talking about it. Certainly the Renault folks aren't talking about it. Mm-hmm. This really seems to be kind of centrally located to Mercedes, and I get it. It is a safety issue, especially if you are causing pain to your drivers, like what Lewis Hamilton and George Russell have been complaining about. Mm-hmm. But I can see why they're complaining, because this does seem to be singularly centered to help one team.
True. Very true. But, I mean, me, just thinking with my technical hat on, if it's a porpoising problem, fix your stinking suspension.
Exactly.
That's a suspension problem.
Yeah.
The suspension's too rigid.
We're a long way from the days of Big Bill France. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember stories that basically if one driver that was running one particular make of car or brand of car came to Big Bill France and said, hey, listen, I'm driving a Chevrolet. At that point in time, it would have been Monte Carlo. Ask your parents, kids. Mm-hmm. I'm driving a Chevrolet. The Fords are kicking my butt. Big Bill France would have looked at you and said, you got two choices. You can either talk to Chevrolet and get your car fixed, or you can switch from Chevrolet to Ford, and you can join them.
Or do your homework and get in the shop and make your own stuff better.
And to me, this is what they should be telling the Mercedes. Formula One should be looking at Mercedes and say, fix your stuff.
Yep.
Us doing the regulations shouldn't be the answer to it. You need to fix your stuff. Mm-hmm. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. Haas F1 brought an upgrade to Hungary. But for only one car? Yeah. We'll tell you about it next, right here on CRN.
We will be right back.
significant upgrade to the final race before the August break, but they only did the upgrade to one of their two cars.
Interesting.
Yeah. To this point of the season, Haas F1 was actually the only team that hadn't had a significant upgrade and originally had targeted last weekend's French Grand Prix to do it, but they delayed the idea. Mick Schumacher, who has had several crashes this year, including two extremely costly ones, had the team running low on parts. So because they were low on parts, they only had enough, they said, to upgrade one of the cars, so they chose Kevin Magnussen to drive the upgraded car, and if it works as intended, they have through the August break to build up a cache of parts, and they will set up Mick Schumacher's car to have the update after the break.
I mean, do it to both of them. Just don't do it to one.
If you don't have the parts. I mean, I see where they're coming from. They have a test balloon here. You can find out whether or not the parts work because you've got the old style versus the upgrade. But it does seem odd that you only did it to one.
Yeah, it's
an odd test.
Very odd.
Very odd test bed. Sir Lewis Hamilton broke through a milestone last weekend at Circuit Paul Ricard. His 300th start in Formula One. Had a little bit more reason to celebrate as well with another podium finish, saying afterward, quote, "This is my 300th Grand Prix. Obviously, it was mentioned at the beginning of the weekend, and I really didn't think much of it this morning. I woke up feeling incredibly grateful, thinking about all the people who have been with me along the way. For Ron Dennis and Mercedes giving me the chance when I was young, Martin Whitmarsh, Monsieur Jose, Toto Wolff, Niki Lauda, all these incredible people that have supported me since I was 13, to then have just this incredible journey with them, every race powered by Mercedes." He did refer to his time before officially joining Mercedes when he ran for McLaren using Mercedes engines at the time. So congratulations to him. Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, congratulations out to Max Verstappen, who has tied Sir Jackie Stewart on the all-time wins list.
Yep.
I think it's 27.
Yes.
So, hey, it's not a bad person to be tied with.
No, not at all.
And down in Miami, race organizers have revealed the numbers and the economic benefit to the area to having Formula One race there earlier this year. They said that their investment in Formula One netted an almost $350 million infusion of tax revenue into the local economy.
Hello.
Almost 250,000 people attended over the three-day weekend. Visitors from all around the United States, as well as Canada, Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and the United Kingdom were noted as well. This was the year one of a 10-year contract between the race organizers and Formula One. Marks the first of two races in the United States this year. Next year, Liberty Media, a U.S.-based company that owns the commercial rights to Formula One, had their dream of expanding to the United States take another step next year when we get three races. Miami, COTA, the one that we're familiar with in Austin, Texas, and that's right, they return to Las Vegas, although they're hoping that the weather stays a little calmer than what it's been out in Las Vegas this week. Las Vegas is very flat. They don't get a whole lot of rain, so when it rains a lot down there in Las Vegas, it kind of has a tendency to pool up as opposed to soaking into the ground.
A little bit.
And, the boulevard, the strip, if you will, was kind of underwater. Formula One can do a lot of things, but they're not boats.
No. Well, instead of having the Mercedes Silver Arrows, we would have the Mercedes Dolphins porpoising. Just saying.
That would have been more appropriate for Miami. Down to Formula E, a little bit of news there. Alexander Sims has formed Mahindra Racing and will not be with the team next year. Sims has won numerous races in GT racing before he moved over to Formula E and the BMW I Andretti team for the 2018 season. He moved to Mahindra before the 2020-2021 year, but after winning in his second race in the BMW I Andretti, he has only stepped on the podium one other time. That was at Rome last year. So Sims, thinking that maybe it's better for him to do something else, has said he will. Informed the team he's leaving them and Formula E. He wants to return to GT racing, racing sports cars all around the world. He's run British GT, he's run IMSA, he's run Le Mans in the GTE Pro category. That's most of what he has done in his past. Had very good success from 2014 to 2017 before going to Formula E. Mahindra has yet to comment on their plans for next year. Over at Mercedes, who's done in Formula E at the end of this year, driver Nick DeVries, who is the defending series champion, got the chance to take Lewis Hamilton's ride in the first practice session, but Mercedes got a little bit of a problem when it comes to this 27-year-old. They ain't got no place to put him. Again, they're out of Formula E. They got George Russell, and they got Lewis Hamilton. What are you going to do with your development driver? They don't know. Toto Wolff, Mercedes team principal, said that they might just have to let Nick DeVries go so we can find another ride with another team. Mercedes has connections in Formula One with their own team, and they supply engines to 4 other teams, but at this point in time, none of them appear to be interested in bringing DeVries on board. It seems odd that you'd have a kid who is as talented as Nick DeVries hanging out there in the wind.
Yeah, it's...
Oh, by the way,
I don't know.
Mahindra's got a seat open. Just say it. And then there's another connection to Mahindra when ADT Racing, apt, if you want to put it that way, returns to Formula E next year after sitting out a year. They're going to use power units supplied by Mahindra. The organization chose to sit out this year after their 2021 partner Audi exited the sport. So instead of going a year with the Generation 2 power unit, they're going to wait, and they did. Next year, they got the brand new batteries that are going to come into effect. So they get back into racing next year with Mahindra. I wonder if they're going to find themselves aligned with some car company.
Crazy.
We'll find out. And then that brings us to the American-based open wheel series, Indycar. Things continuing to get a little less and less cordial. I use that term very, very lightly. In the contract dispute between Chip Ganassi Racing and Arrow McLaren Racing SP over their driver, Alex Palou. Remember, Alex Palou had his contract option picked up by Chip Ganassi Racing on the exact same day that Alex Palou reported that he had signed with McLaren for 2023 and beyond. Oops. While things have been chilly between Ganassi and McLaren CEO Zach Brown, Palou had seemed to be on the outside of it looking in until Wednesday, when Chip Ganassi Racing filed a lawsuit in Indiana against Palou himself and his own family-owned racing company for breach of contract. The team released a statement that said, quote, Alex Palou is under contract with Chip Ganassi Racing through the end of the 2023 season. He's a valued member of our team and will continue to support him in chasing wins, podiums, and IndyCar championships. As the result of a competing racing team improperly attempting to contract with him, notwithstanding the clear terms of our contract, we are proceeding to legal process pursuant to the contract. Any and all inquiries on the matter will be handled by our legal counsel. End of statement. Palou had been rather quiet about the whole drama, except to say this: he's simply concentrating on racing. But on Thursday, he did add this, quote, I will be in the McLaren family next year, vowing he is done at Chip Ganassi Racing. If you really wanted to keep Alex Palou, is your first option to sue him?
Nope.
I wouldn't have thought so either.
Nope. Not at all. Absolutely crazy.
Oh, man. I thought this might have the chance to become a soap opera when we heard that Chip Ganassi Racing had picked up the option on Palou's contract on the exact same day that Palou said he had signed with McLaren. I didn't realize it was going to get this bad.
That's... Oh, boy.
I mean, again, I'm trying to put myself in the driver's head, and I get it. Alex Palou had a great weekend last weekend in Iowa. But this was before the lawsuit came about. Now that you got this lawsuit that names you and your family-owned race team, race organization, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Doesn't this become even more of a weight on your shoulders and occupy a bigger part of your head? I mean, I'm asking you. You're the driver.
Yeah, it does, because it gets in your mind so much that you can't perform your job like you need to, in my opinion.
And I guess, and maybe this is just me thinking, I don't know, thinking worst case scenario. How much do you really want to give this team that has now filed suit against you? Isn't there some sort of, I mean, I get it. You have a competitive fire inside of you, and if you've got a car good enough, obviously you want to win or at least do as well as you possibly can because you are the defending series champion, and therefore you'd like to repeat. But at some point in time, don't you have to sit there and go, I'm still racing this Chip Ganassi racer. This dude sued me. How much do I really want to give him?
If it's me, it's a good guy, bad guy sitting on your shoulder.
Sure.
Good guy sitting there tell you, just go do your job, finish your job, go race, go have fun.
Yeah.
But bad guy saying, don't give him an inch. Don't even give him a centimeter.
Yeah. So the good guy's saying, be professional.
Yeah.
Do your job. Go out there, see if you can win races. You never know, you might be able to win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
The bad guy over there saying, hey, we're planning on blowing up the bridge anyway. Why don't we just nuke it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how this works out. It really will. Because this is a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. On all sides. For Palou, for McLaren, and for Ganassi, this is a nightmare.
No doubt about that, man. It shouldn't have went that far.
No, not at all.
Shouldn't have.
On much better terms appears to be the Juncos Hollinger Racing Team and their driver Callum Ilott. They've signed him to a long-term deal. I use that term loosely. I'll tell you why in a second. The 23-year-old British driver joined the team late in the 2021 season on a 3-race set, finished out the season as the team prepared to go full-time this year with him. He has impressed. He qualified inside the top 12 in each and every race this year. He does have a career-high finish of 8th, which was at the GMR Grand Prix at the Indy Road Course back in May. It's not only his best so far, but the best finish in IndyCar for the team. Where are they racing this weekend? Oh, that's right. The Indy Road Course again. He comes over from racing in the Formula One ladder. He had been, and I think he might still be, a Ferrari development driver. Has been since 2017. He was Ferrari's test driver and Alfa Romeo's reserve driver last year. He was a candidate for one of the 2 seats in Haas F1 before the 2021 season began, but they ended up choosing Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Yeah, that Nikita Mazepin thing, hindsight being 2020, was not a great thing. And Kyle Ilott was left considering his future. Enter Ricardo Juncos. After talking to each other, they felt that it was just the right fit. Juncos added this, quote, I'm happy to confirm Callum Ilott's continuation with the team for the long term. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. I meant to get back to that long term. Long term in this case, at least according to motorsport.com, means 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Maybe 3. Maybe 3. Mostly 2.
Sorry, if I'm thinking long term, I'm thinking probably minimum 4.
5, 6-ish.
I'm not sure I would have called, I think I might have called this a multi-year deal, not a long term, but I'm using their terms just because it was funnier. Mm-hmm. And then there's Dale Coyne Racing. They're looking ahead to 2023. They announced he is, 99% sure. It's pretty positive that he'll be able to retain drivers David Malukas and Takuma Sato, and Coyne adds he would love to expand out to a 3-car full-time operation. He admits the team does need to get better at pit stops, but at the same time thinks Sato can handle mentoring 2 young drivers, continuing to help Malukas while adding he prefers a rookie for 2023. Now, I get it. He's got a little bit of help because the Takuma Sato ride is a Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing ride. But at the same time, how much are you relying on Takuma Sato to mentor 2 young drivers? He's doing pretty well with Malukas.
He's done it before at Red Hall Letterman. It doesn't mean he can't do it again.
Okay. We, by the way, have no idea who it is that Dale Coyne might choose.
That would be great, because if that means getting one less Rick Ware Cup car off the track, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
There you have it. One more note within IndyCar, and then we will take a break and turn our attention to, that's right, the biggest story arguably of the week in the Cup Series. We did note that Joseph Newgarden appeared to be on his way to a dominant sweep of the weekend's races at Iowa until he crashed out with 64 laps left in last Sunday's race. Something in the rear of the car apparently broke, according to the team, and Newgarden, the 2-time IndyCar champion, spun hard into the outside wall. He was examined in the infield care center and then taken to a local hospital for further evaluation. He was released the next day. Immediately, Santino Ferrucci was placed on standby in case the doctors and series officials were not able to clear Newgarden, but on Thursday they cleared him to practice. After he got done practicing, the doctor said, yeah, go ahead, you're racing. So Newgarden's back in the car as of today. Thankfully.
Yep.
Glad that it wasn't worse.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. Disqualifications at the Cup Series has been something of a no-no for 62 years. Why all of a sudden did we have a change of heart? Well, we can pretty much figure that out, but we'll dive deep into it when we come back. Hour 1's in the books. Hey, Hour 2's on deck right here on CRN. that being said, if you are planning on being outside anytime and you haven't done this yet, number one, what are you waiting for? Number two, go ahead and do it this weekend. If you're going to be outside, take a very close look at your house. And I'm talking about the foundation of your house. If it's brick or, quite frankly, whatever, if you are seeing cracks in your house and the foundation, that very, very much could be a major problem. Now, it might be something simple to fix. Then again, maybe not. This is why you need to call in experts, because I don't know about you. I know enough about my house to know that's probably not right. But then again, I'm not the guy who really should be the one fixing it. Because if I got a foundation problem, I ain't no expert on that. That's where our good friend Michael Hart comes in. Give him a call, 205-362-6419, or send him an email, mike@oxfoundations.com. Set up a time and a day that works for you and for him, if you're anywhere in the state of Alabama, for him to come out and take a look at your house. And he will. He'll go over it thoroughly with the professional eye. He's been doing this for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about not years, decades. He knows what he's talking about. If there's a problem, he'll write it down in detail, and he will sit down and explain it to you line item by line item and tell you why it costs what it costs. Now, that being said, if there's no problem, you don't owe anything, because this is a no-cost, no-obligation written foundation assessment. And if there's nothing wrong with the house, he'll write it up and say, there's nothing wrong with the house. Probably not a quote, but still, he'll write something up to that effect and hand it to you and keep a copy for himself, and everything's good, and he goes on his way, and you are a happy person. But if there is something wrong, and he does sit down with you line by line and tell you why it costs this much, you go, oh, by the way, I heard about it on the Championship Racing Network. Promo code is WEST. 15% off right then and there.
Yep.
205-362-6419 or mike@oxfoundations.com. Get your house's foundation Ox Strong so it'll be there for a very long time, because if you're like my wife and me, we would like to be in our house for a very long time. So we figure you probably do too. Set up the appointment. Just make sure. Biggest story of the past week, or maybe even a year. Something in the Cup Series that had not been done in over 60 years. They disqualified the winner of a race. We talked about it about an hour ago in the race recap, and we said we'd get back to the story, and we are. Joe Gibbs Racing teammates Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch finished first and second, respectively, on the track. Now, generally, even if something was found wrong in post-race inspection, that was really going to be it. They would say, hey, listen, we found something wrong with the 11 and the 18 cars, and we'd hear about monetary fines or points deductions, maybe even suspensions. But welcome to a new era. See, back in about 1960 at Wilson Speedway in North Carolina, the person who crossed the finish line first was a gentleman by the name of Emmanuel Zervakis. Those who went home from the race that night thought that was it. He won the race. Days later, news broke that the win had been stripped and given to the eventual NASCAR Hall of Famer Joe Weatherly, because Zervakis' car was found to have an oversized fuel tank. The backlash on the decision, though, was big enough that Big Bill France decided that the fans should know the winner. And he decreed that the driver who crossed the finish line first would be officially the winner, and if there was a problem, the win would stand, but there could be any combination of what we just talked about, fines, docking of points, and or suspensions. But we're in a new era, ladies and gentlemen. With this Gen 7 stock car and a couple of pieces of tape, apparently, it all changed. In post-race inspection, NASCAR inspectors pulled back some of the wrap on the 11 and the 18, and they found, quote-unquote, extra layers of vinyl underneath the top level, which they say essentially gave the 11 and the 18 an aerodynamic advantage, as the underlying layers partially covered at least one duct opening in the lower front nose, according to some. I don't know the entire full story. Do you?
All I know that it was the equivalent of a piece of Scotch tape.
Yeah. This thing was 12 1/1000ths of an inch thick and about, 2.5 inches wide and maybe 4 or 5 inches long?
About the equivalent of, actually more about the equivalent of 2 pieces of Scotch tape sitting just like that.
Yeah. Not even as wide as duct tape. Keep that in mind. And on top of that, one Cup Series driver said, yeah, they had to have been ratted out, because in post-race inspection, when they went to go check the wrap, they didn't just randomly pull any part of the wrapping aside. They went to the exact same spot on both the 11 and the 18 like they knew where to look. Somebody had to tip them off, according to Corey LaJoy.
Somebody did.
It had to have been that.
But
either way, they found it.
It makes me raise my eyebrow and wonder if they done it on 2 Toyotas. How many other Toyotas did they do it on?
Yeah, and why didn't they check the 19 and the 20? Was it just because they didn't happen to finish first and second?
They check 1, 2, and 3. Check 1 and 2 thorough. Have a baseline check on the third place car.
Yeah. And then randomly, I think, pick one other one throughout the field.
Yeah, then the baseline check was already done and completed on Elliott's car. And once you do the baseline check and you've passed the baseline check, you're released.
You're done.
You're done. Put it on the truck. Once you put it on the truck, it's out of our control.
Right.
Yeah, I want to see who told it.
Somebody said something
Tattletale.
Either way, the first and second place finishes of Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, respectively, relegated to the last 2 positions of the race, 35th and 36th, respectively. And Joe Gibbs Racing officially have said that they're not going to appeal. They released a short statement that read this, quote, "This change in our build process," I like this, "this change in our build process was not properly vetted within our organization, and we recognize it is against NASCAR rules. We apologize to everyone for this mistake, and we have made changes to our processes that ensure that it does not happen again." Now, this win would have been Denny Hamlin's 49th Cup Series win of his career, which would have tied him with Tony Stewart on NASCAR's Cup Series all-time wins list. But now with the win stripped, he remains at 48, while Chase Elliott inherits the win. It all is part of NASCAR promising about 4 years ago that they were going to tighten up on post-race inspections, and with the introduction of the new Gen 7 car have appeared to do just that. But then again, that is kind of random that you happen to choose the exact spot where those pieces of tape happen to be installed.
Exactly.
We did find there was another penalty handed out, but I want to continue on with Joe Gibbs because this is even deeper. Because as we've been talking about, one of those 2 drivers is in a contract year, and that's Kyle Busch. And Kyle Busch has no sponsor for 2023. Remember, M&M Mars is done at the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much in the entirety of NASCAR. They're taking their sponsorship money and they're moving it elsewhere.
Yep.
Which happens, okay? And it happens to teams and companies that are coming into NASCAR. They've just reallocated their advertising budget, and they've decided we're either going to get out of racing or we're going to get into racing, whatever it is. So Kyle Busch still has no contract because he has no sponsor for that 18 car. Which does seem odd considering he's a 2-time champion and has won practically everything under the sun.
Yeah.
But that being said, it was witnessed at some point in time last weekend at Pocono that Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs had gotten face-to-face. I'm not talking about Joe Gibbs Racing. I'm talking about the coach. I'm talking about the owner, Joe Gibbs. They got face-to-face, and it appeared to most that the conversation turned, let's just say, heated.
Yeah, he didn't give too much attention to Coach.
So it comes down to this. We don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, there are rumors. And the longer this thing goes, the more connections to the outside of Joe Gibbs Racing there seem to be connected. I mean, heck, they just did a poll this week on NASCAR Race Hub on the Fox Sports 1.
Yeah.
And over half the people that responded to the poll said that Kyle Busch was going to be racing in the Cup Series next year, but not for Joe Gibbs Racing. And inside the garage, and I get it, rumors are rumors and speculation is speculation, and we have said this. We don't play with speculation a whole lot. But when you hear this many people in a garage area saying it really seems like this is going to happen here, it might be something that you want to pay some attention to.
It's gaining steam. Let's use that term.
And what is it?
Very, very loosely. Seems the consensus, and I'll use the term that way, seems that the consensus, because there was a very, very, very high-profile car owner that left his, here's your clue right here, he left his F1 team to come to Pocono.
Mm-hmm.
he was seen talking to said driver. The consensus seems to be that the direction this may be going is Kyle Busch is headed to Stuart Haas. The consensus.
Yeah.
Is not official, not confirmed, but the consensus and the rumor has him going that way.
Okay. If that seems to be the truth, there are two possibilities. Number one is Eric Almirola's 10 car, because Eric says he's done at the end of the year, even though now he seems to be kind of waffling on that. At the beginning of the year, Eric Almirola said, this is my last year in the 10 car full time. But as we've talked about, the seat under Cole Custer, I like the kid. He's a good kid. Met him last year. Had a great time. We were over there in Birmingham at the go-kart track, the indoor go-kart track. It was a lot of fun. Audubon Speedway. A lot of fun. Great guy. But the thing about it is, at this level, if you're not winning with a team like Stuart Haas, sooner or later, they're going to look someplace else.
Yep.
So 10, maybe 41.
I'm personally thinking it's 41.
And the even more interesting part of that, and I mentioned this within the last couple of weeks, if Kyle Busch ended up in the 41, that's a car that his brother drove just a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Because if there's one car owner that can easily foot his own bill, it's Gene Haas.
Yeah.
And he won't bat an eye doing it either.
Now, also, don't be fooled by this. We got this silhouette tease from Richard Childress Racing stating that they've got an announcement coming up. This regards the same car that Tyler Reddick is about to vacate. Okay?
I know. It is dead clear obvious who that silhouette hits. Austin Hill.
That's not a bad choice.
Austin Hill.
And sorry, Ty, but Austin Hill's a better choice than Ty Dillon for that car.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because I first said Austin Hill before I even seen it, but somebody took the silhouette and matched it up with a previous photo taken, and it's identical.
There you go. So, again, the RCR announcement is pending within the next week or two?
August 2nd, next week.
Next week, okay. We have nothing on Kyle Busch with Joe Gibbs, without Joe Gibbs, with Stuart Haas, without Stuart Haas. We got nothing. We have no timeline. We don't know.
Right.
Again, all of this is speculation and rumor. But the longer we go, the closer we get to the end of the 2022 season, and he's not locked into the 18, the more it seems like this is going to be him exiting there.
Yep.
And I get it. Toyota would love dearly to keep Kyle Busch because Kyle Busch Motorsports runs Toyotas.
Huge.
But if you don't think that Ford would love to get Kyle Busch Motorsports just as much as Toyota would like to keep him,
yeah,
I got news for you.
Considering what they did to Stuart Haas, and the only team that they've got even in trucks is essentially a collaborative effort between DGR and Front Row. That's on a good week, 4 trucks.
Yeah.
On a good week, 4.
You double it when you bring Kyle Busch Motorsports in.
You go
and you hamstring Toyota at the same time. That's a win-win for Ford.
Toyota goes from KBM as your flagship to ThorSport.
Sorry, ThorSport. You at one point in time were a massive power, but you're not that anymore.
You've went from Chevrolet to Toyota to Ford back to Toyota. That's not stable to me.
No. This is going to be fun to watch. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch because don't think that all of this isn't connected. This whole got disqualified and everything like that, Kyle Busch can't be a happy guy. It doesn't seem like Kyle Busch is all that happy. He's going out there, he's doing his job to his credit, but at the same point in time, it doesn't seem like Joe Gibbs Racing is the Joe Gibbs Racing of old. We'll see. When we come back, this all-new body also had a bit of a problem for the aforementioned Front Row Motorsports. They got a big penalty. A penalty that actually caused some ire within the NASCAR fan community because of the situation we just announced with the disqualifications.
Yeah.
There is a link. We'll let you know all about it when we come back. You're listening to CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, says the person that doesn't have to clean up. Western Sizzlin' in Oxford says get the best breakfast in the area each weekend and let us take care of the mess. Whether an early start or a family get-together, Western Sizzlin' on Hamrick Drive is open at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday with a full breakfast buffet and invites you and your family for great food without the mess. Every Saturday and Sunday, Western Sizzlin' on Hamrick Drive in Oxford.
You already know Sylacauga Marine and ATV is the area's #1 choice for Tracker, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons, Nitro bass boats, Tahoe runabout and sports boats, and Mako offshore saltwater sport and inshore fishing boats. But did you know about the all-new line of Tracker off-road vehicles, Polaris side-by-sides, and a selection of used inventory too? Call Sylacauga Marine and ATV today at 256-245-8920 or visit online at sylacaugamarine.com.
Allie's Love Step.
It's a destination for the best time ever. We make sure you stay happy together. You're gonna love this place. It puts a smile on your face. Callie's Love Step.
Wash and Coin Laundry supports Toys for Tots, and you can too.
Toys for Tots wants to let everyone know that on October 24th, we open up to take applications for the holiday season. Thursday, November 30th, we need volunteers to help out as well as sponsors. To donate, they can reach Brenda Clark at 256-225-3531 for any information they may have. We want to help as many families as possible. The age group is newborn to 12 years of age. This is at the Anniston Regional Airport off of 21 in Oxford in the FAA building.
Hey folks, this is George Brunner with Superior GMC and Hyundai in Anniston. Are you ready to upgrade and save on a newer car? Right now, interest rates are still super low, but that's not going to last long, and your trade will never be worth more than today. Inventory is arriving daily, so let's upgrade and save some big money. Come to the big sale at Superior Hyundai on Quintard Avenue across from Betty's Barbecue. Or see all my cars online at superioralabama.com. That's superioralabama.com. And take advantage of these huge savings.
4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show. So, disqualifications handed out to Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch. First and second become 35th and 36th. Now, this brand new Gen 7 body has a whole lot of single-sourced parts. Many adjustments or unapproved additions become major problems very quickly. Witness, for example, what happened to Brad Keselowski earlier this year and Michael McDowell and the 34 Front Row Motorsports. They got the Brad Keselowski treatment. In post-race inspection, the inspector said that the team had illegally modified the nose of the Ford Mustang of the 34 and have docked him 100 owner points, $100,000, and crew chief Blake Harris sits for 4 races. They have appealed it. Blake will be on the war wagon this weekend. I would imagine they'll hear the appeal next week. Again, Keselowski suffered much the same penalty earlier this year. He suffered damage to the back panel of the car, and instead of going and getting a new one, the team tried to beat the damaged panel back into shape, but it wasn't quite good enough for NASCAR. This is effectively the same thing, only on the front end of the Front Row Motorsports number 34. McDowell finished 6th. He gets all those penalties, the $100,000, the 100 owner points penalties, and the 4-race suspension for the crew chief, but he keeps the 6th place finish. So all of this had fans up in arms over whether the disqualifications of Busch and Hamlin will remain their only penalties. Again, Front Row Motorsports has appealed this. They may hear it sometime this week. In fact, I think they will. But apparently, NASCAR said the disqualifications were enough at Joe Gibbs Racing. And I'm not sure I believe that that's the case.
That's what they've done was an alteration of the front nose piece, the front fascia, however you want to call it.
Sure.
Brad Moran. That classifies as an L3 penalty.
Yeah.
Per what the rule book says.
Mm-hmm.
But you do all this and you slam front row. But We'll just take the win away from me. It's fine. The sponsor and contingency money that comes in, along with the purse money, is just as much. What they lost is actually less than what Front Row got hit for.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You go from first and second to second to last and last. I understand that. But shouldn't this hurt more?
It should hurt. It should have. In my opinion, it should have. But
I'm not sure I get it.
I don't get it because the inconsistencies are astounding.
Yeah. I mean, you're willing to throw out a disqualification, but under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have disqualified them. You would have fined them monetarily. You would have fined them points-wise, and you probably would have suspended the crew chiefs at least one race each, maybe more. Why wouldn't you do that and the disqualification? I mean, if you really want these teams to not mess with these Gen 7 cars, you throw the book at them. And I mean, you take the big, heavy, hardcover NASCAR rules book and you throw it right at their heads.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to take the win away from you because you put a piece of tape on the front of your nose piece. Oh, we're going to fine you $100,000 and take away 100 honor points when you don't even clearly define what happened with 34 car. I've yet to see a clear definition of what happened.
Yeah. I don't either. I haven't either.
There is, simply put, and we touched on this weeks ago with the Keselowski issue. There is...
Yeah, because that was early in the year.
There is zero clear transparency anywhere in a Cup Series.
Yep.
I hate to say it, but there's none.
Yeah, I agree with you. Unfortunately, I mean, as close as you and I are to it.
There's no transparency.
There's no transparency to it. And that's taking our fan hat off and putting our journalism hat on.
Bingo.
We have to do that. That's what we try to do to our level best here on this show.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the other Busch, Kurt, missed out on last Sunday's race after he slammed the ball hard twice coming out of turn 3 during qualifying last Saturday at Pocono. Doctors did not clear the elder Busch brother, left 23-11, not 23 by 1. Racing, scrambling for a fill-in, they turned to, of all people, Xfinity Series hotshot Ty Gibbs, all of 19 years old, to take over the seat in apparently Kurt Busch's uniform.
Yeah. Again, this weekend, too.
Busch apparently tweeted about that?
Yeah, he was making jokes about it. Denny Hamlin was, too, because Ty Gibbs got a pair of Denny Hamlin's shoes just to wear with his fire suit. A pair of Denny Hamlin's Jordan fire suit shoes.
Busch, who's 43, talked about his pending ending of his career, be it at the end of this season or next. Posted on social media he was suffering from concussion-like symptoms from the hit. You know how seriously NASCAR is taking this now. As for the young Gibbs, grandson of Joe Gibbs, he did do a respectable job. He finished 16th on the day. He's going to get another chance this weekend because on Wednesday, NASCAR's doctor said Kurt ain't ready yet. So Ty Gibbs once again will drive the number 45 on the Indy Road course this time. Kurt is in the playoffs with a win. NASCAR has granted him a medical exemption, so as long as he remains inside the top 30 in points, he should make the playoffs.
Yeah, he's got that. Yeah, he should.
Yeah. And then there's Ty Gibbs, but that's another story altogether.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, making his NASCAR debut this weekend, and I'm talking Cup Series debut this weekend at Indianapolis, is former F1 driver Daniel Kvyat. Kvyat's been making himself something of a regular in and around NASCAR garages all year long, and Team Heseberg finally said, you know what? We're going to put a second car out on the track for this weekend. It'll be numbered 26. It'll be a Toyota Camry. And we'll let you drive the car. He's attempting to qualify that car right next to the number 27, which will have the team owner, Loris Hesemans, driving. How are they doing?
Let's just say these cars that are prepared and helped with and assisted by Rayon Brothers, which in my opinion is just the same level as Rick Ware, but you mean who's counting anyway? They're not last. Kvyat was not last in his group.
How far from last was he?
He was 17th out of 19th, but still, he wasn't last. And he was only 6/10 off of A Hendrick car.
This one, and I don't think it's both of them. I'll say this. The one that Daniel Kvyat has is a pretty interesting cooperative effort as well. Toyota Racing Development obviously is involved in this because it's a Toyota. The engine, however, is actually going to be prepared by a Dutch company called APP Racing Engines. They're going to use a Toyota block and about a half a dozen other companies offering up parts and or manpower to make the engine and this race a reality. For those who are not really all that familiar with Daniel Kvyat, he last raced full-time in Formula One in 2020, running for what is now AlphaTauri. Last year for Alpine, he was their reserve driver, but he didn't get a start. He's got 110 career Formula One starts with 3 podium finishes. But that said, Kvyat is Russian. You can't race in FIA-sanctioned events due to their opposition to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. NASCAR, mainly because at the beginning of the year they didn't have anybody that was Russian, had no such restrictions.
He's born in Russian, but he lives in the Monaco, Italy area, primarily.
So,
I think he's took his citizenship.
I think he probably has as well. But again, it is interesting to note that NASCAR, because they didn't feel like this was going to be an issue at any point in time during the course of the process, said, we don't see any Russian-born drivers coming in. Okay, what the heck? Oh, here comes Daniel Kvyat. Well, you already kind of set your precedent, so let him go.
Well, speaking of that, we got Group A rolling right now with 12:40 to go in their session.
Okay.
Nobody's clocked an official lap yet.
All right. With that being said, we do have qualifying in Formula One.
Yes, I want to say FP. Q1 has ended. Your bottom 5 out was Tsunoda, Albon, Vettel, Gasly, and Latifi, so FP3 was a fluke.
Massive fluke. Okay, but both Haas drivers advance.
Both Haas drivers did advance, yes.
How good were they?
They're cycling through Q2 now. As they currently sit, Magnussen is 12th, Schumacher's 13th.
Okay. So really that update doesn't seem to be holding a whole lot of benefit over the old one.
Apparently not.
We'll see. We'll keep an eye on that. And then Formula E is racing right now in London.
With 16 minutes and 45 seconds left to go in race number 1.
With those of you that are wondering, by the way, why we would mention that, remember, Formula E is a 45-minute race plus 1 lap.
Yep. Top 3 is Jake Dennis, Stoffel Van Dorn, and Nick DeVries.
Okay.
Currently.
Then we got Eric Jones back into Cup Series news. Eric Jones has been rather vocal about his desire to remain behind the wheel of the number 43 at Petty GMS Racing. According to Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily on Thursday, that contract should be coming soon. Stern reported then, quote, Eric Jones closing in on a multi-year extension with Petty GMS Racing. Per sources, apparently that came to fruition just this morning.
Yep, they finalized it this morning. Starting in 2023, he has a multi-year deal to stay, apparently, 3 years.
Cool.
That's the multi-year deal. Standard nowadays.
We know that Ty Dillon is out.
Yep.
We don't know 2 things. Number 1, we don't know who will be the driver of the 42 next year, or number 2, we don't even know if the 42 will be running next year.
42 will be running.
I'm pretty certain of that, but I'm just saying we haven't got confirmation of a driver or even if the car's coming back yet. In likelihood, this is GMS Racing saying it, they want to be a multi-car team at this level.
Yeah.
They're looking for a driver.
Yeah, they basically axed half of their truck team just to be able to get this Cup stuff started. And the merger with Petty
made it a little easier.
Yeah, this 42 is basically Marty Gallagher's baby, and I don't see Marty Gallagher laying down that easy.
No.
So, but
who's on the inside track?
Seems like Noah Gragson's got that one on a beeline. Seems like it.
Noah Gragson for a little while was linked to Stewart Haas Racing.
For a little bit, yeah.
No disrespect to Noah Gragson. If I've got the chance to get Kyle Busch over Noah Gragson, and I get it, Kyle Busch is he's a very divisive figure, but talent-wise, you can't argue Kyle Busch has it all over Noah Gragson.
True. Very, very true.
Then there is Hendrick Motorsports. We talked about William Byron and the 2014. They've already had an eventful weekend, and the racing hadn't even begun when the hauler arrived in Indianapolis on Thursday and promptly caught on fire. Reports say that a generator overheated, caught on fire. The only real damage was done to the trailer itself. The primary car was moved out of the hauler quickly and not damaged significantly anyway. Hendrick quickly sent a backup hauler to Indy, and while NASCAR did allow the team to park the 24 in the garage early, you couldn't work on it. They couldn't work on it, I should say. The team worked very hard to transfer all the necessary equipment from the old to the new hauler. Nobody injured in the blaze, thankfully. The smoke, they said, could be seen well outside of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah.
I'm just glad nobody got injured.
Yeah, true. It was just sitting in the staging area and then generator that runs just to keep everything cool in the hauler for fuel purposes. And now where it overheats, it just, where the fuel overheats, it just got too hot.
Yeah.
Caught on fire, but the trailer got pretty significant damage.
Yeah.
So they'll be hauling the test hauler back. Going from there.
All right. The USA Network, which is a division of NBC, airing numerous Cup and Xfinity Series races this year. For the first time, also set to offer up a brand new unscripted series. They're not really calling it a reality series.
Yeah.
This does seem more along the documentary side. This looks like kind of their own version on a more limited scope of maybe Formula One Drive to Survive. It's called Race for the Championship. It will debut Thursday, September 1st, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central Time, so set your DVRs now if you choose. It'll give the viewers a behind-the-scenes look at the drivers and the teams in the Cup Series over 10 total episodes. They will center on, but they won't be limited to, drivers such as Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski. These guys are all active past champions. And they'll also look at some up-and-coming drivers, concentrate on drivers like Ryan Blaney, Daniel Suarez, Ross Chastain, Corey LaJoie, with others. And they will include most, if not all, Cup drivers in some way, shape, or form. The question is just how much these teams will cooperate with the filmmakers. Time will tell.
Yeah, exactly. Time will tell.
That brings us to the Xfinity Series. Sage Karam stated that his run last Saturday at Pocono was kind of cathartic for him. Sit back and let us tell you a story. It's allowed him to make some peace with this track that has taken two of his friends. Now remember, Karam comes to NASCAR from Indycar, and he was a rookie in Indycar in 2015 when, with 21 laps to go at Pocono, he slammed the outside wall. I want to say that was between turns 1 and 2.
Coming out of turn 1, heading down the one pond straight away.
The nose cone of his car flew off through the air and actually hit his friend and competitor Justin Wilson's helmet. It caused a massive and traumatic head injury that took Wilson's life. That is shakeup number 1. And it really did hurt Sage Karam, to the point where just 3 years later, he returned to Pocono, but he wasn't driving. He was a spectator. He was effectively sitting in the stands. Decided to watch the race with his then girlfriend, now wife, Abby, and saw on lap 1 the crash that all but paralyzed his friend Robert Wickens, sent Sage Karam into a massive depression. 4 years later, he agreed with Alpha Prime Racing to drive the number 45 Camaro at Pocono, said he just wanted to keep the car clean and let what might happen go ahead and happen. He brought the car home with a top 20 finish. He called his return mission accomplished. I'd say so, because it's a track that has taken the life of one of your best friends and for the longest time took the livelihood of another one of your friends. I could understand how he might not want to return there. For him to get back there and then to follow through with, a top 20 finish, it sounds rather pedestrian, but you got to look at it from Sage Karam's angle. This is a massive win for him to come back to this track and do what he did.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts, or no doubts about it. I fully agree. Because driving, especially down into 1 and coming out of 1, knowing that that's the exact same point where that accident happened, where Justin Wilson tragically passed away, it would have some of those, it was worded to me one time this way, some of those ironclad butterflies.
Sure. I can see that.
That's causing some extreme nausea flying around.
Yeah.
Because when they hit you, they let you know they're there.
Yeah.
Not the regular old butterflies. I'm talking about ironclad butterflies.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a bypass for, I forget how many laps that race was. But
200.
200
500-mile race.
The Xfinity?
No, I was thinking about the Indycar race. The Xfinity race was a 150.
Okay, so for 150 laps.
150 miles.
150 miles.
So it's like a 70, 80 lap race, maybe.
Okay, so we'll split the difference and say for give or take 75 laps, he has to drive by the exact spot that he knows where Justin Wilson's car came to a rest.
Mm-hmm.
And then, for that same number of laps, he has to go through turn number 2, which is where Robert Wickens got into that multi-car crash that punted his car up into the catch fence, ripped everything off the car. I mean, literally everything off the car. And when that car came landing flat back onto the track, it was just the tub. So no suspension, no nothing to break that fall. Smack, driver tub with Robert Wickens strapped in, and that created a massive stress fracture to his spinal cord, which caused, like we said, all but being paralyzed.
Yep.
So he has to bypass the spot where he knows Justin Wilson was killed. He has to bypass the spot where Robert Wickens was all but paralyzed, and he has to do it for, give or take, 75 laps.
Yeah. But from a mental game and a mental standpoint, definitely mission accomplished.
Congratulations, man.
Yep.
We got a little bit more Xfinity, got some Camping World Truck Series news. We got an interesting connection between NASCAR and NCAA football to talk about. Huh? Yep, we do. And NHRA news all coming up as we get ready to wrap up CRN right after this.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network.
Welcome back into the show. Steve West along with Matt Nicholson here. We appreciate you checking us out. And a couple more notes here as we're in Xfinity Series news. First of all, congratulations out to Daniel Hemrick and his wife Kenzie. They announced this week they're expecting child number 2, who will join their daughter Ren, who was born back in 2020. No word on the expected date yet, but they do know this. It will be a boy. Congratulations.
Good for them.
And Brandon Built Motorsports is having sponsorship issues, specifically well, a lack thereof. It's caused him to step out of the number 68 this weekend at Indianapolis, where he will actually turn and he will be driving Mike Harmon Racing's number 47. He talked to FrontStretch.com, said that the 68 could be parked for some stretch of the remainder of this year, or he may be using other drivers who bring sponsorship checks with them to be able to race the car. That's the example this weekend when Austin Dillon will moonlight in the 68 at the Indy Road Course. His sponsor, though, was not announced.
I think it's that Maestro's. It's like a men's grooming products, Maestro's. I think that's what's on
like
the car.
hair oil sort of thing.
Something like that.
Okay. And that, again, that leaves Brandon himself, who is just outside of the playoffs looking in, if I remember correctly.
He's not far out.
He's seeking rides. Now, Mike Harmon Racing's not necessarily the worst place to go. We've seen the possibilities of what Mike Harmon's cars can do. We saw it with Kyle Weatherly and, God, the other name just went right out of my head. Thank you. Last year, within the last couple of years, really. So we know that there is potential there. We'll have to see whether or not he sticks with that car or whether he just kind of starts shuffling around from car to car. Because his intent is to race out this year.
Yep.
Time will tell.
Yeah, no doubt.
One thing that we do know is not going to be happening much longer is in the Camping World Truck Series, we're not going to be able to say that for much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Lemonis, chairman and CEO of the company, announced that this will be the final season that they're going to be the title sponsor of the Truck Series due to his employees. Lemonis appeared on Sirius XM Satellite Radio Thursday, said of his 14,000 employees, quote, "We just issued a series of raises, and not because we just wanted to hold on to people, but we realized that's how our business works. The reality of this is math is math. I needed to put more into the paychecks of our people. You have to make some tough calls. We'll continue, obviously, to be fans of NASCAR and be looking for opportunities, but it was time for us to give the keys over to someone else." I get the feeling Marcus Lemonis will still appear as a sponsor on cars and or trucks.
Here and there, yeah. He's not going to be completely out of it.
Here's the more interesting report. Adam Stern of Sports Business Daily, he's got some merit. We tend to believe what Adam Stern has to say because he's been on it way more than he's been off of it, as opposed to some other reporters that we could talk about. Adam Stern says this opening might allow the return of a prior sponsor, specifically Craftsman. Now, Craftsman is no longer owned by Sears. And as we know, Sears is, well, all but a non-entity anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They sold off the Craftsman name, correct me if I'm wrong, to Lowe's.
Mm-hmm. That's technically the first thing I saw when I saw that. Lowe's is wiggling their way back in.
Mm-hmm.
And wiggling their way back in behind the Craftsman curtain.
Yep. I wouldn't bother me at all to see Craftsman back on the title. At all.
No, not at all.
And despite not having quite the year he would have wanted, Matt DiBenedetto impressed his bosses at Rackley War Racing enough. They re-signed him for 2023. After running in the Cup Series from 2015 through 2021, DiBenedetto found himself out of a Cup ride after last year. Landed in the Truck Series, earned 6 top 10 finishes as of last weekend with the best finish of 6, which happened twice at Worldwide Tech Raceway at Gateway. He matched that at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, but again, finished just outside of the playoffs. I have to admit, at the beginning of the year, I really honestly thought they were more a matter of when, not if, they would grab a win. I was kind of surprised that they didn't claim one.
Yeah.
My question is this, and I think in a lot of ways I'm answering my own question when I say this.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more the driver, or was it really more the team that has yet to adapt to the abilities of the driver? I tend to think that it's still Rackley War Roofing that has some growing pains here.
Yeah,
They've got a fantastic driver.
They're what you would call a toddler team. They're only 2 years old. Full season 2 years old.
Right.
And they're learning, and they got somebody that's Cup caliber driver coming in, and they're just adapting to him more than him adapting to the team.
I got you.
So I fully agree with you on that one.
So we're still kind of more in the feeling of this is a matter of when, not if, they're going to get a win.
Bingo.
If you are a follower of the NCAA, and let's face it, we're in the state of Alabama here, who doesn't follow college football, right? You probably are very familiar with what they call the name, image, and likeness deal, or the NIL deal.
Good old-fashioned NIL.
That's right. NCAA, if you didn't know anything about it, has created a way for college players in any sport in college, by the way. They could sign an NIL deal, which essentially allows the player to make money off of his or her name and picture while also keeping their college eligibility. This, though, is a first. One player has an NIL deal that involves NASCAR. Mm-hmm. Coastal Carolina quarterback Grayson McCall has signed a deal with what we still call our second track home, Darlington Raceway.
And will continue to do so.
You know it. Marks the very first such deal for NASCAR in any way, shape, or form. Now, Atlanta Motor Speedway has worked with 3 University of Georgia players, but these are one-off social media promotions. That was a one-time thing, basically. This one, with Darlington and Grayson McCall of Coastal Carolina, covers the entire football season. It allows McCall to promote the upcoming Labor Day weekend race. He effectively becomes the face of the track's marketing campaigns. Why this particular situation? Well, Coastal Carolina is located in Conway, South Carolina. That is less than 100 miles southeast of the famed track. It's the latest connection for the track to college athletics as well. Track president Kerry Tharp once was the University of South Carolina sports information director who had worked closely with coaches that you'd probably recognize if you're college football fans, Lou Holtz and Steve Spurrier, before he moved over to take on the leadership of Darlington. It's an interesting call, though. They went with, instead of a player at South Carolina, they went with a player at Coastal Carolina. But get this, McCall goes into his junior year this year. It's his redshirt junior year, but still, it's his junior year. He's 20-2 as a starter. Holds the NCAA record for passer efficiency set last year at 207.6, which, by the way, broke former Alabama quarterback Mac Jones's record set back in 2020. What's Mac Jones doing now? Oh, that's right. He started as a rookie for a 6-time Super Bowl championship team. That's not too bad for one Grayson McCall. McCall has also claimed the back-to-back Sun Belt Player of the Year honors, and this year is a Maxwell Award finalist. For those of you that don't know what the Maxwell Award is in college football, it is the media's idea of who is the best all-around player in college football that season.
Mm-hmm. Pretty sure the reason that they took him is because, and if you want to be quite honest, blunt about it, in my opinion, Coastal Carolina's got a little bit more of a spotlight on them than South Carolina does.
I would agree. Let's face it, South Carolina is kind of overshadowed by that other major team in their own state called Clemson.
And it's weird to say this, but actually Coastal Carolina is closer in proximity to Darlington than Clemson is.
Yeah.
Way closer.
Yep. So, hey, congratulations. I think it's great. It breaks new ground.
No doubt.
I like it.
No doubt.
And then we turn our attention to the NHRA as we get ready to wrap up here. Regular season of the NHRA's Camping World Drag Racing Series, oh, by the way, that apparently will remain in place, is coming down to the wire. But despite some of the big points gaps that we noted in the standings that we did in the recap section of the show, only 2 drivers have actually clinched spots in the countdown to the championship so far. Those are funny car driver Robert Height and pro stock car pilot Erica Enders. They both clinched, but out of all 4 Camping World Drag Racing divisions, they're the only 2.
That's crazy.
According to NHRA.com, heading into this weekend, there are 12 drivers vying for one of the playoff spots in Top Fuel, Funny Car, and Pro Stock Motorcycle. And in Pro Stock Car, that number jumps up to 15 drivers vying for 10 total spots. Oh, but wait.
There's more.
Kind of similar to the salary cap in the NBA, that 10, it's really not a hardline number. It's more of a soft cap.
Mm-hmm.
See, several years ago, to entice more drivers to actually run the entirety of the schedule, which in Pro Stock Car and Pro Stock Motorcycle, they don't run the entire 24.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're Funny Car or you're Top Fuel, that's 24 races over this course of time, and you're talking about going literally coast to coast. Not inexpensive when it comes to the travel expenses.
No.
So there are numerous teams and drivers that miss out on an event here, there, or maybe in some cases for stretches of a season. Steve Johnson was pretty well notable for this up until this year. Birmingham-based rider Steve Johnson rarely made the trek on the West Coast swing.
Yeah, he was regional.
Yeah. So, again, to entice more drivers, or riders in this case, to run the entirety of their particular division schedule instead of making it a hard 10 based on points alone, any driver outside the top 10 who had at least attempted to qualify for each and every event of the season would get in. And that would put, for example, in Top Fuel, both Antron Brown and Tony Schumacher in. Hard to believe Antron Brown's not inside the top 10, but he's not. He's 11th. Tony Schumacher's 12th in Top Fuel points. Assuming that they attempt to qualify for the remainder of the events before the countdown begins, that's this weekend at Seattle, then in Topeka, Kansas, Brainerd, Minnesota, and, of course, the final one of the regular season, Indianapolis.
And you know they will.
They will.
You know they will.
I mean, again, Tony Schumacher's back with his brother, Don Schumacher. And Antron Brown just started his own team. He's going to want to get as much experience for his fledgling operation as he possibly can.
Right.
In Funny Car, Jim Campbell's in the same situation. And again, there are about 15 total drivers who potentially qualify in Pro Stock Car. But at this point of the season, only 8 riders in Pro Stock Motorcycle have at least attempted to qualify for all the events run so far. All 8 of those are inside the top 10 in points already.
Of course.
So we don't need to worry about that.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to watch this as it comes down the stretch. Speaking of Don Schumacher Racing, they've announced that the majority ownership of their Top Fuel ride of Tony Schumacher is now actually no longer in the hands of Don Schumacher Racing. It's in the Maynard family. Joe and Kathy Maynard, as of Monday of this week, makes the name of the team officially Maynard Family Racing / Don Schumacher Racing. Maynard's overseeing the day-to-day operations over Tony Schumacher's ride. Now, understand that this move is likely not the pending exit of Don Schumacher from the sport. According to reports, this is going to allow Don and Megan Schumacher to concentrate on the Don Schumacher Racing Performance Company. This is a company separate, kind of, from the Top Fuel operation, an aftermarket performance, aerospace, and defense manufacturing operation not included in the partnership with the Maynard family. It only began last year. Joe and Kathy acquired a minority interest in the race team. Now they are majority owners. Don Schumacher is the minority owner. Seems weird, but I understand it. He's got other stuff and other irons in the fire. And those irons, apparently pretty hot.
Pretty large.
So
Pretty large.
Now the question is what effect does this have on the team? Again, these are people that just got into the ownership in this sport last year.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to have much, honestly.
I hope not.
They're just basically going to absorb what they got their hands on and let it ride at that.
But I will say this. Not altogether unexpected. Because if you stop and think about it, Tony Stewart Racing effectively was born out of Don Schumacher Racing. And I get it. Leah Pruitt's his wife now. But last year, who was she running for? That's right, Don Schumacher Racing.
Yeah.
Who was his funny car driver, Matt Hagan, running for last year? Oh, that's right, Don Schumacher Racing.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy.
It just seems weird, though, that a Schumacher is not the majority owner of a team anymore.
True. Very true.
But we wish him the best.
Yep.
Speaking of wishing the best, you and I have had the opportunity to take our own cars, or in your case, I think it was your dad's car, out onto Talladega Superspeedway.
Multiple cars, let's say that.
Yeah. You and I both have had the chance to take multiple cars out on Talladega Superspeedway in Drive Your Own, which, by the way, I think it's August 13th. They do another one.
They do.
$50 for charity. You go out there, you'll get 3 to 5 laps? 3 to 5 laps.
Three.
Okay. You'll get 3 laps, and you'll get a chance to tour Big Bill's garage area. We'll talk about that more that weekend. I wasn't there when you did this, but you took your car out onto Atlanta Motor Speedway
I did,
a couple of years ago?
Yes. 2020. I think it was the fall of 2020.
Okay. We have also done, it was the Richard Petty driving experience at Talladega Superspeedway. That was kind of fun.
I've done that one and the Dale Jarrett driving one as well.
Okay. And the one that you and I did, we did the base package, which puts a rev limiter on your car. And we hit, both you and I both hit the rev limiter. And we both
really fast.
Yeah. We both got certificates that stated we both hit the 150 mile mark, mile per hour mark, which is pretty cool, considering the fact he's the resident driver. I was willing to do it. Now we kind of come out, and really our limitations are going to be by gearing, from what I can tell, because I read up on this seat time racing experience that we're about to be dealing with.
Buck Baker's Seat Time Racing School.
Yes. We're going to Atlanta Motor Speedway tomorrow. And again, we're more limited by gearing. They're saying maybe into the 170s, but that might be our limitation. But here's the thing. Again, he's the resident driver. I'm the one that's got to figure out whether I've got the intestinal fortitude to try and stick with him.
170 in Atlanta is not something to bat an eye at.
No. So here's the deal. I fully expect you to try and test every limit to your car.
Trust me, I'm going to.
My question is whether or not I have, and I'm not even gonna, I'm gonna man up. I understand this is a family show, so I'm gonna say it in as family way as I can. Will I have the testicular fortitude to stick with the driver, resident driver of this show? We'll let you know when we return right here next week.
We're gonna find out.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll do it at about 2:30 Eastern time tomorrow afternoon.
Yep.
And we'll talk all about it next week. Y'all have a great week. Enjoy the racing. I know we will. And we'll talk to you next week right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
WDNG 1450 AM and W236CQ 95.1 FM Anniston. The new 95.1 The Mountain. Here is the latest weather from Alabama's meteorologist James Spann, brought to you by Everyone Needs an Ace Hardware Plan at all area locations of Oxford Lumber in Oxford, Jacksonville, Roanoke, and Talladega. Quality, service, and value since 1950.